Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Ferrer, your professor. Good afternoon, class. Today we will discuss the introduction to human geography. First, we will have to define the word human geography. According to authors, human geography is the study of how people make places, how they organize space and society, how these people interact with each other in places and across space, and how we make sense of others and ourselves in our locality, in the region, and of the world. This is equivalent to saying that human geography is how we people organize things in the environment, how we interact with one another, how we behave in our locality, in the region, and around the world. This is how we do things in our respective places, how we interact with our friends, with our neighbors, and the rest of the community. Today, as we experience globalization, geography in its real sense has been affected by this move. And what is this globalization? This is actually a process that involves increased interactions, deepens relationships, and heightened interdependence without regard to country borders or limits. It is also defined as a set of outcomes that are unevenly distributed, that varies across scales and manifested differently throughout the world. In our place, you might say that some areas have been globalized, but there are also areas that needs to be improved. There are also places that can be considered as globalized throughout. So what makes the difference between these countries? And that affects geography. Now, can you imagine and describe a most remote place on Earth you can think of 100 years ago, and now describe how globalization has changed this place and how the people there continue to shape the place to make it the place it is today? Or will you consider the Philippines as one of these places on earth that you can think of 100 years ago? Questions in geography usually focuses on the spatial arrangement of places and phenomena, this human and physical. But our concentration in our course is more on human geography and how things are organized on Earth, how do they appear on the landscape, and why these things are there, where are they located, and so what if they are there? So most probably, these are the questions that we're going to answer as we go on with our discussion in your course. There are 5 themes of geography: the place, the region, the human environment or interaction, the location, and movement. Place can be categorized into sense of place and the perception of place. When we say sense of place, that is when people infuse a place with some meaning or emotion. In your own understanding, do you have a certain place where you attach a certain meaning or an emotion to that place? We usually call it a place where we cannot forget, or an unforgettable place that we have visited, or where we have experienced something that we do not want to forget. Another is the perception of a place. This is people's belief or an understanding of what place is like, such as those we read from books, from those we see from watching movies or reading stories, or through pictures or from blogs. That's why there was a time in our life that we promised to visit a certain place because we perceive that such a place is beautiful to go to, or beautiful to visit, like say Paris, like New York, like Hong Kong, and places that fascinated us the most. Or let's say in the Philippines, you wish to visit Boracay, El Nido, say the Underground River, or let's say the entire Palawan. Then the second theme of human geography is region. This is where people share common traits in that certain area of the world, or by which they share such a trait with the entire world. So there are three major types of region. We have the formal, the functional, and vernacular, and the perceptual. So a formal region is a place where anything and or everything within that region share the same characteristics or similar phenomena. Example, if people in that area are relatively homogeneous, or people in that country share the same characteristics, such as in Germany. Then the second is the functional region. This is been defined as those that goes around a certain point or a certain node where density is highest at the center of that region, then it fades as you move further away from the center. Example are in places where there are radio signal or internet connection, or in cities where people have the highest density. Then as you go out of that center, or when you go to the countryside, then you will see that the density is quite different from that central point or node. And the third is the perceptual or vernacular. This is an idea of a region based on some personal perception. Like for instance, regions in the United States, they have the Midwest, they have the South, Northwest. In Asia, we have that Southeast Asia, we have that Central Asia, and the like. So those are examples of perceptual or vernacular, where we base certain region on some personal perception of the people. The next is the location. So questions like, where are you located? Where is something located? I would like to ask you, where are you located so far? Why you are located there? Okay, so there are two types of location: the relative location and the absolute location. So relative location is like answering questions where you or where something is located in relation to something or somewhere else. Like you are in Taytay, it's because your parents are there. And maybe someday you will be in the city or in Puerto Princesa, it's because your work is there. Or your brother is in Hong Kong, it's because work is there. Or your grandparents are in El Nido because they are residing there. So the location is somewhat relative depending on the relation of that something to another thing somewhere in a certain place. Then the second is the absolute location. When we say absolute, actually it is the exact location on the Earth's surface. So if I would like to find you and I want to determine the exact location, your exact location, then I will use coordinates of the longitude and the latitude to find you. So that's absolute location. Of course, there are some gadgets that can be used to locate the whereabouts of a play of a person or something, and we call that absolute location. The next is the human environmental interaction. This is how we modify the Earth's surface to our own benefit as we live on this Earth's surface. Millions of years ago, the Earth's surface is quite different from we are living today. That is because men have modified the surface to their own benefit. You might wish to return back in time, or you might wish to have a time capsule and move forward for another million years. But whatever we have in mind will depend on how people modified the Earth's surface. You might ask why we need to change the way thing is in the surface of the Earth. But man has to do that in order for them to survive, maybe, or because of some benefit that they get out of those modifications. And the last is movement. We call it spatial interaction, the interconnectedness between places, which particularly depends upon distance, accessibility, and connectivity. So far, this special interaction is the common usage among people in making connections, and how far the distance is, how difficult the accessibility is, or the connectivity, but this is the role of the game so far. Just imagine, before the pandemic that we experience today, look at some flights schedules in every terminal where you will see hundreds of departures and arrivals are being posted, of travels, domestic or international. Even in the city of Puerto Princesa, in every 15 minutes, an aircraft leaves or arrives in the international airport. That's how a special interaction or movement have been experienced by people around the globe. But despite the pandemic, there are still areas in the world where this kind of movement is being practiced. Okay, class, if you have questions, you can post that in the Google Classroom for discussion during our Google Meet. And for your assignment, you have to take a picture of a visible imprint in your barangay or municipality and explain if you still wish to live in that neighborhood or your barangay. Second, discuss how spatial interaction has defined the present learning environment. Again, this is your professor, Dr. Ferrer. See you in the next session. Thank you.